Start recording. And today is going to be a continuation from yesterday. So if you weren't here yesterday, you might feel a little overwhelmed. Let me take you briefly through what we did yesterday and what is the goal for today. The goal for this week was to create a course selling application. This is very similar to, let's say, Udemy, but with some key differences of, not as complex as Udemy right now, doesn't have image upload functionality, doesn't have content functionality. An admin can come or a creator can come and create a course, but they can't really put videos in there. So, sort of a half done course selling application. The goal is to understand and practice creating the backend, the front end, learn a few new things. For example, we learned about routing yesterday somewhere here. There you go. This is something we learned yesterday. .env is something we did not learn yesterday, but I expected you guys to try it out. I'm also happy to try it out today. And the third thing we will learn today would be about relationships in Mongo. These are really the three new things that we learned. Other than that, it was a lot of practice. Let me take you through the current code base. What does it look like and what else are we supposed to do right now? So long story short, we didn't do much yesterday. We covered everything from point 1 to point this guy, whatever this point number is. 3 more things are left. We initialized an empty Node.js project. We added a bunch of dependencies to it. We created an index.js file. We added route skeletons, which means we did not write any business logic. If you open any of these route files, admin.js simply returns rest.json. This endpoint simply returns rest.json. There is no business logic here to put things in the database, fetch things from the database, so on and so forth. Where did it go? So today we're supposed to, finish that, complete the routes for everything, add middlewares because we have 2 types of authentications this time: user-based authentication, admin-based authentication, and then creating the front end. If you want, you can clone this repository as well. If you weren't here yesterday, or if you want to be at the same checkpoint that I am at, you can go to github.com/100xsteps cohort 3/ week 8 course selling app. Akash, please put that in chat as well. This is the repository where the current code base is present. We will be building on top of it. The goal is that you try to write a bunch of things and I will write them eventually, but try to code a bit yourself. If you weren't here yesterday, you might be a little overwhelmed. So I would, urge you to just pause and go back to yesterday's class and, restart from there, because we learned a few new things yesterday. For example, routing in Express. So this might feel a little overwhelming to you, and whatever is happening over here might feel a little overwhelming to you. So, just go to yesterday's class and then come back to this video. For everyone else, can we start to write the logic for the admin? This we have written many times now, right? We have to take some inputs from the user, maybe use Zod to validate the inputs and then put them in the database. Fairly simple stuff. Should take you less than 2 minutes. Can you finish the sign up endpoint and maybe even the sign in endpoint? The sign in endpoint would validate, does this user exist in the database with a current username and password? And if they do, return them a JWT, else return them an error message. These 2 endpoints would require you to, if you remember, use the bcrypt library for signing passwords or hashing passwords. And what other library? Not bcrypt. What is the library? It is bcrypt. I keep forgetting. Let's see. Password hashing in Node. Yeah, bcrypt. So bcrypt for, if you remember from the password signing class, for hashing passwords. If you don't want to hash passwords, keep them plain text. That's fine as well. Zod if you want to validate the user inputs, and JSON web token to create a JWT for the user. So these are the 3 new dependencies you have to add and write the code. This is the same code we wrote yesterday. There is nothing new here. Sign up, sign in functionality is something we did last week as well. So hopefully this is, straightforward and takes you less than 2 minutes. You can write an ugly version as well. You can write a better version as well. The admin model is present over here. It is already imported in this file. You are just supposed to put data inside the database and then verify. If you want to create your own MongoDB database in index.js, you should replace this Mongo server URL with your own MongoDB URL or MongoDB cluster. If you want to use mine, feel free to use mine. Just change this table to be your name or this database to be your name. So if your name is Ankit, just change this to be Ankit-app rather than, all of us writing to the same database. So I'm going to replace this with Harkirat-course app. So you can use my database as well, but preferably get your own MongoDB database and put the data in there. 2 more minutes, 8:11 pe, I will also start to code the sign up functionality and the sign in functionality. I will look at Q&A until then, but mostly try to spend your time coding this. Yesterday you modified admin.js and removed /course from the endpoint. No, it's still here. Yesterday I modified course.js and removed. Oh, if I did that, that was wrong. In admin.js /course needs to be there. In course.js, we had to get rid of it. So if I did that, that was wrong. This is the right code base currently that we're seeing where, admin router.post /course and put /course and get /course /bulk is correct. If I want to make lead code clone, should I use spawn? The answer is no. If you want to use make a lead code clone, if you use spawn, you are running user ka code in the same environment as your code, and that is a very big vulnerability. I have a video on YouTube that will take you through that approach as well. That's a bad approach. Better approach is you need to containerize the external code that user is sending. F key toggles between full screen mode and small mode. Update the feature for video playing. Oh. Okay, can you create an issue on CMS? Someone will pick it up. Recap routing in Express. Long story short, the way we have written code over here means that any request that is coming to /API/v1/user will be handled by this user router. And if you look at the user router, here we say any request that is coming on /signup. That means any request that is coming on /API/v1/user /signup is handled by this guy. That is what routing is. And it uses this router function. It is a function, even though it starts with a capital R. It uses this router function to, just structure your application a little bit better, not have all your routes in a single file. Database is not getting created in MongoDB Compass. You don't create a, database is not getting created. Let's see. Let me open my MongoDB Compass. Also, you don't have to manually create it in Compass. Whatever name you put over here, for example, I've written Harkirat course selling app, will automatically get created in MongoDB Compass. You don't have to manually generate it. I've done with the business logic, write the front end. So write the front end in DOM. If you want to get fancy, there's this thing called EJS. Read about that and try to write the front end using EJS. Or if you really want to do it, then do it in React as well. These are the only 3 things you can do next. Or if you want, try to change authentication. You learned about local storage and token based approach. Why not try, sorry, someone posted the answer that looks right. I'm going to copy your answer, sir. Thank you. Why not try cookie based authentication? That will also teach you something new. Cookie based authentication, session based authentication are 2 new things you can try. Preferably just go with cookie based authentication. Try to change your backend like this. Can you please in package.json start, build, etc. Let's open package.json. What is over here? Scripts has nothing. If I add a start script over here and I say, your start script is going to be node index.js. Then now if I run npm run start, whatever is mentioned over here will start my backend, will run node index.js. Yesterday, someone suggested, this might be something new, so slight attention folks. Someone suggested, Harkirat, why don't you use nodemon? Nodemon is a CLI that constantly watches your files. And if I, rather than running node index.js, run nodemon index.js and run npm run start, now all my files are constantly being watched if I ever change any file, if I go to index.js, add a few lines, save, it restarts my backend server automatically. It is constantly watching for files to be changed. If I change any file, as you can see, it says restarting due to changes and it restarts my backend. So what have I changed? Here, npm run start is running nodemon index.js and not node index.js. And ideally what we should have over here is dev should run nodemon index.js and start should simply run node index.js. What am I doing over here? Here, when the user runs npm run start, they want to start their application in production. Then we start it. We don't watch any of these files. Why should I waste the resources of my, process to keep on watching these files and listening for changes? But when I'm running it in dev mode, when I'm developing the application locally, then I will run npm run dev, which will run nodemon index.js, which will keep watching all of these files. So if I change any of the files, the backend server will automatically restart. That is what nodemon lets you do. And these are what are scripts in the package.json file. Cool. Let me push this change. Even though I haven't done much, I only changed the package.json a bit. Step 8, added scripts. Now what are we supposed to do? Now we're supposed to implement the user routes. Some of you have already done it. How should it be implemented? We expect the user to give us email, password, first name, last name. This was our schema, right? What does our database schema look like if I go to db.js? What does the user schema look like? User schema has email, password, first name, last name. Whenever the user signs up, we expect them to give us these 4 things. So can I over here say, okay, const email, password, first name, last name is something I expect the user to give me in the body that they are sending? Yes, Hakirat. What am I doing over here? I'm just destructuring rec.body. I could have also done this. Const email equal to rec.body.email. I could have done this as well and had 4 lines of code, or I can destructure rec.body over here. What is missing over here? Adding Zod validation. Something we discussed last week. You should add that. Then what do? We should ideally again do what? We should convert the password into some, hash. We should hash the password into some unreadable string. How can you do that? You can use the bcrypt library. I'm not doing it again, just to keep it simple for people who haven't gone through last week. But what should you do over here? Hash the password. So plain text password is not stored in the DB. This is another thing we should do over here. Once you have hashed the password is when you should call db.js is exporting what? User model. So what should I call? Const user model equal to require ... /db. Require the user model at the top and then put this in the database. Now I again forgot if it is a create or an insert. I think it is create, but I could be wrong. We can confirm by going here and typing, create it is. What do I want to create? An entry with email as this email, password as this password, first name and last name. Something like this. If you know the key and the value look the same, you can also write shorthand like this. Basically this and this do the same thing. And so as to not complicate, I'm going to leave it like this. User model.create. I should await on this. I should wait for this to go into the database. Why should you await on it, Harkirat? Again, we discussed last week. Put an entry in the database. Let the user know sign up succeeded. What else did we discuss last week, if you remember? Okay, this might throw an error from time to time. So we should put this inside a try catch block. We should put this inside a try catch block. If there is an error, then we should let the user know, okay, hey, your sign up has failed. So that is another thing you can add. I am not adding it again. I am leaving that as a to do as well. Put inside a try catch block. All three of these to dos we had discussed last week. We had discussed adding Zod validation, hashing the password into some format, and then putting it inside a try catch block. You should implement all three of these. People have posted solutions. I will also post solution eventually, but try to write it yourself. We have done this last week. First endpoint is done. Let me try it out. Does it work or not? I can run node index.js or simply run npm run dev now. Now, as I keep changing my file, this server will keep on refreshing. So let me quickly try to hit the sign up endpoint. API v1 user sign up. What do I have to send as inputs? Email, password, and username. First name. Last name. These are the inputs that my endpoint expects, right? Email, password, first name, last name are the 4 inputs that are expected by this route handler. What is this route handler? You might think, Harkirat, this is on /signup. Why are you writing API v1 user signup? Because in our index.js file, I say, the thing starting with API v1 user, and then in the user router says /signup will get handled by this guy. And what are the inputs it expects? Email, I've given it over here, password, first name, and last name. Let's try to send this request. It says socket hang up, which means that the database died. Can you guess why? What is missing over here? Take 10 seconds to figure out what is wrong in this code without looking at the exception. Or if you want, I can show you the exception as well. What is the exception? It says cannot destructure body email of rec.body as it is undefined. What is it saying? It is saying cannot destructure email from something that is undefined. I expected something to be in rec.body, but rec.body is undefined. Why? I thought I'm sending body because I forgot to add the express.json middleware. Do we remember this? Okay, this middleware is needed whenever the user wants to send a request with some JSON data. Whenever the user is sending some request with some body, if you want to parse that body, if you want that body to have some data in here, that will only happen if you have the express.json middleware. I'm not going to restart my application. I will just save the file. Node-mon will make sure it automatically restarts. Now let me try to send a request here. Again, it crashed. Let's see what happened this time. This time even I don't know. It says user model.create cannot read properties of undefined, reading create. Who will debug this and win $25? Very subtle bug. And you will only be able to figure it out if you have set it up locally. What is the issue over here? Let me know and take away. Capital C someone said is wrong. Insert someone said is wrong. Email error. Nope. These are all incorrect. So that means you are not trying it out locally. If you were, you would have known. There you go. No, वैसे अभी तक आंसर आया नहीं है. Yeah, I can't find the answer yet. Server restart is incorrect. .save instead of create is incorrect. Put the proper thing if you figured out. Put the solution in there. Create one. There you go. नहीं ये भी नहीं है. Sorry. मेरा तो बदला चला गया. मेरा तो चल गया. A lot of people are posting a lot of things. Hold on. Let me see. Does this bug actually exist? in the GitHub repository. I think it does, but I could be wrong. What was the GitHub repository? Week 8 course selling app. Let me see, has someone posted the error? Mine is working. For some people it is working. So the error is still here. If you were running everything from here, then it would have failed. Basically, what is the bug in this specific repository is my question. For you, it might be working because you don't have the bug. But what is the bug over here? Oh, there you go. Someone found it. Somit Saitar. Module.exports. I had a typo yesterday. In db.js at the end, I did a module.export. It should be module.exports. This was the thing that was incorrect. The best way to debug it would have been, it is saying user model is undefined. Even though user model मैं clearly /db से ले रहा हूँ. /db is leading me to this file. यहाँ पे at the end, I am exporting user model. So the only thing that can be wrong is there was a typo over here. So that was the thingy. So whatever the name I took, whatever the bounty I decided, I totally forgot. Alrighty. Cool G, user.js. Now let's try it out. Does it work now? Sign up successful. But is it actually successful? How will I know? By opening MongoDB Compass, going into my MongoDB cluster. So many terms. Cluster, database, collections, documents, tables, always get confused. A lot of people are using this, and mine is called Harkirat course app. If I go over here and open the users table, I will see an entry for this specific user that I've just created. So everything looks fine. Things are reaching the database. Sign up endpoint is done. Now what is left? Finishing everything else. Let's quickly finish let's finish just the sign up and the sign in endpoint first for both users and admins. Users is done. Sign up endpoint for user is done. What would the sign in endpoint be? Before that, what do I need to introduce? No, that is fine. The sign in endpoint would get just an email and a password from the user. Then it would hit the database const user equal to user model dot find, where email is this thing and password is this thing. Whatever email and password we destructured over here. I should await on this because this is a database call. Harkirat, why should we await on this? You should go to last week's video. We spent a decent chunk of time figuring out why should we await on this call. Why is this an asynchronous call? Why does user model.find return a promise and not synchronously give you back the data? The answer is because database is far right. This is running on my machine. Database is somewhere in the US. So it will take some time for it to fetch the request, which is why you have to await on this specific call. If the user exists, then what do? Then we create a JWT for the user. So at the top of the file, what am I supposed to do? Const JWT equal to require JSON web token. I think I have already installed JSON web token, so I should be fine. And what is the other thing? I need a JWT underscore user underscore password. So here I am introducing something that will become important eventually, but I will have a separate password for signing user JWTs. I will have a separate password for signing admin JWTs. Whenever the admin signs in, their sign in will be signed by signed by or encoded by using their password. User ka password alag hai. There is a very specific reason for this, or security reason for doing this. You should not share the JWT password for the user logins and the admin logins. Cool. Why we can discuss eventually. All right. Password decide. A JWT password put over here. What am I supposed to do over here? If the user is correct, if the email and password is correct, JWT dot sign. What do we sign over here? The ID of the user, which will be user dot underscore ID. In the database, what ID? Where is ID stored? in the database, the ID is stored in the ._ID field. It is not stored in the .id field. Email, password, first name, last name, and what is the unique ID of the user? _ID. So what am I signing over here? Const token equal to jwt.sign, jwt user password. And here, currently we are using the token based authentication, which is why I will send rest.json. This is your token. But if we were using cookies over here, then exactly here is where you would do cookie logic. So I'm putting a comment over here. If you want to do cookies in the future and do cookie based authentication or session based authentication, but not token based authentication, some logic would change over here. If you don't worry about it if you were not already curious about it. Else we will tell the user status 403.json incorrect credentials. So this sign in endpoint will now let the user sign in, return the user back a token if they have sent us the right email and password. If they send us the wrong email and password, then we won't be able to. What is missing over here again? Ideally, password should be hashed, and hence you can't compare the user provided password and the database password. What have I written over here? Here, ideally, if you remember over here, I said hash the password. So plain text password is not stored in the database. We discussed it last week. So यहाँ पे plain text password shouldn't be stored. Some hashed password should be stored. So when the user is signing in, this logic will not work because user provided password is the plain text password. Something like, whatever, 12312331. But the thing that is stored in the database would be a hashed password. So this logic won't work. You will have to change this a little bit. How do we change this, Harkirat? By using the bcrypt library, remember from last week, and try to implement it yourself. Great. Let's do a small poll. While I test the sign-in endpoint next, let me open Postman and send a request to /signin. Are we good to go? Do we understand everything? 93%, 90%, 92%. Good. Not great. But okay, we will still proceed and I will take doubts at the end. But that tells you, 90% is able to understand. So 10%, push yourself a little bit. Let me send a request to the sign-in endpoint. Click on send. It returns me a token. Let me send the wrong password. Still returns me the token. Let me send a very wrong password. Still returns me the token. So what is the bug over here? Find one. I think I could be wrong. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, what I did was user model.find. This will find all the users who have this username and password. So this will return you an array. Now it will be an empty array. If I send the wrong credentials, user will have an empty array. If I do .find, अगर मैं .find कर रहा हूँ, तो I'm saying give me all the users with this email and password. So this will return you an empty array. And if empty array is true, if of empty array is true, it is not false, which is why, user model.find did not work. User model.find1 will return you either the user or undefined. So I'm saying give me one entry over there जिसका ये email हो और ये password हो. So it will return me either that entry or undefined. If it returns me undefined, then this if condition will fail. But if I call user model.find, तो क्या होता है? It returns me an array. Now if it finds an entry, it will return me an array with an entry. If it doesn't find an entry with that username and password, it will return me an empty array. And if empty array is true, if of undefined is false, but if of empty array is true, which is why control ended up reaching here again and again. What is the thing that I did wrong? User model.find. What should I do? User model.find1. Or if you are using user model.find, then यहाँ पे you should check user.length equal to 1. If we were able to find one entry in the database with this username and password, then we should do this. But what is the better way to do it? Find one. Find the user. If the user is correct, return them back their token. Good to go. Can we copy the same logic to admin? Shouldn't take us more than 2 minutes. Let's quickly do it. Sign up logic, exactly the same. Admin will also log in like this only. So let me go to admin.js and simply paste the logic from there. What is the one thing that I need to change? Okay, I don't need to put data in the user model. I need to put data in the admin model. So admin model.create email, password, first name, last name. Everything else is still the same. And similarly, can I copy over the logic for the /signin endpoint? User.js sign-in endpoint, whatever it does, I can copy and paste. But what do I need to change? Number one, it is giving you a red squiggly over here. So number one, I need to add async over here. Number two, I'm not getting user anymore. I'm getting admin. So let me change the variable name as well. Const admin is await. What am I getting the data from? Admin model dot find one with this email and this password. If the admin exists, sign the admin's JWT with a JWT admin password. Create a different password for admins. Think about why this is needed. Why can I not share the JWT password between the user and the admin? Why am I creating separate JWT passwords for admin.js and user.js? यहाँ पे I separately defined कि यार जब user login करेगा ना, what will our website look like eventually? Our website will have two login endpoints. One for /creator, let's say, and one for /user, or the landing page. Simple sign-in endpoint, and then a creator sign-in endpoint. Who is a creator? Someone who can create a course, a YouTuber or whatever. So why did I say okay, when the creator logs in, to sign it using a different JWT? When the user logs in, sign in using a different JWT. Whenever the user hits a user endpoint, decode it using that JWT. When the admin hits with an admin endpoint, decode it using that JWT. Think about it. I will discuss eventually. Or we'll do a poll and see if no one understands or less people know, then I will explain it. But hopefully from first principles you can start to derive it. Probably not, actually, it's not that easy. All right. JWT admin password is what I use to sign the admin token and return it to the user. That is all I had to do. Admin endpoint is done. User endpoint is done. Let me quickly test the admin endpoint. Okay, am I able to create a user? Am I able to sign in? And when I sign in, does it return me back the token? If it works, then I can say, I will just push the code and then we can say the first part of our application is done. The first two endpoints or first four endpoints are done. /admin /sign up with, let's say this very similar credentials, says sign up successful. If I try to sign in using the correct credentials, it returns me nothing. So something failed over here. And I'm sure you guys already see it. JWT is not defined. I did not import JWT at the top. This is where if we were using TypeScript, our life would have been much easier. Okay, that much is good enough. Now if I sign in again, this time it returns me the token. If I sign in using some wrong credentials, it says incorrect credentials. If I open my database, I open admins over here, I see my newly created admin. So seems like everything is working. The code that we have for sign up and sign in is correct. Can we do a quick poll? I mean, I'm sure this was easy only. So let me do a different poll. The poll is, do you guys understand why it is a good idea for JWT admin password to be different from JWT user password? When I'm signing a user, giving them their token, they should have a different password. When I'm signing an admin, they should have a different password. Do you guys understand this, or should I explain this? Do you understand this already? Yes or no? 50-50. So let me explain this really quickly. Meanwhile, I will also push in the code that I've written locally so you can catch up if you want. What did I change in course.js? Nothing. So this is step number 9. add auth endpoints. What have I done? I've added the authentication endpoints for users and admins. One question, or the thing that I kept on saying right now was, here we have two types of people on our platform, and you can sort of see they have different privileges. एक होगा creator or YouTuber, let's say, who's a Dhruv Rathi, who comes on our, Flying Beast is one creator who comes on our platform. When they interact with our backend, I repeat, when they interact with our backend, they will send us requests that start with /API/v1/admin. They're one of the admins of this backend because they can create courses, versus this is, a audience, or, you get the idea, student somewhere who wants to buy his course. So whenever he or she sends a request, they will send it to /API/v1/user and then, something. So their endpoints will start with this. This guy's endpoints will start with this. Whenever Flying Beast signs in, right, what do? We take their user ID. Let's say their user ID is 1. Let's say, theoretically, their user ID is 1. So we sign user ID 1 using a specific secret, return them the JWT. Let's say that JWT looks like this, DDAASS. Of course, the JWT is much longer, just a smaller example. This is what we return to Flying Beast. Their JWT decodes to user ID 1, or whatever, ID 1 or admin ID 1, whatever you want to call it. Let's say we encode ID:1 and return it to Flying Beast. Now a random audience member comes and they also sign in. And let's say कि हमारी किस्मत फूटी कि our stars are not aligned, and this user also has the same ID. They also have ID 1. We have separate tables. We have a table for admins. We have a table for users. Both of these, even though the probability is very low, since we are using these randomized object IDs, the probability of two having the same ID is very low. But let's say this happened. Even if this doesn't happen, still it is a vulnerability. But a simpler example is, okay, this is a separate table where there's a user with ID 1, and admins mein this is Flying Beast, whose user ID is also 1. So what happened over here is, since you signed using the same JWT password, अगर आपका JWT password same है, backend pass w0rd. Let's say you thought you'll be very smart and you created a password like this. But since it is the same for the admin endpoints and the user endpoints, both of them will get back the same JWT. Both of them will get back the same JWT. What are we decoding? ID 1 is what we have encoded over here. ID 1 is what we have encoded over here. Of course, ये ID 1 is used on admin endpoints. Flying Beast is expected to hit endpoints like /admin/v1/create course in the future. So whenever Flying Beast hits this endpoint, he will hit this with their JWT. But now the problem is, the audience member जिसकी ID same है, an audience member who might have a similar ID, they also have access to the same JWT. They can also hit this endpoint and we wouldn't know whether this is Flying Beast, a creator, or whether this is an audience member. So that is why the password here and the password here should be different. If you are signing user with a JWT, if you're signing admins with a JWT, if the payload ends up becoming same for whatever reason, IDs are the same, then the payload ended up becoming same. So admin endpoints should always be checking with this password. User endpoints should always be checking with this password. If in the future, this audience member tries to hit this endpoint, admin v1 create course, that should be verified with this password. And this audience member ka JWT was created with this password. So that is why, even if the audience member has a similar ID, the same ID, इसकी user ID ये है, इसकी admin ID ये है. This is the ID from the users table. This is a random user. This is their ID. But unluckily for us, in the admins table, Flying Beast also has the same ID. So their payload is the same, but we will be signing it using different passwords so that इसको जो JWT मिला है, the JWT that this guy got after signing in, he can't reuse that on admin endpoints. He can only keep sending that JWT on user endpoints because all user endpoints will be checked with this password. All admin endpoints will be checked with this password. Do we understand this? Do we understand why? Now, of course, I chose a very lucky case के IDs are the same. But even if IDs are different, let's say user की ID कुछ random थी 133, but still when they send a request to an admin endpoint, the JWT won't complain. JWT will be like, यार लग तो रहा है मैंने ये sign किया था. If the passwords are the same, then the middleware will not complain. If this user starts to hit an admin endpoint, middleware तो जाने देगा. Route में कहीं कुछ पंगा आएगा. When you reach the actual route for, let's say, creating a purchase, when you will reach this specific route for creating a course, let's say this route right here, the problem is the middleware will not be able to catch कि हाँ भाई ये user तो incorrect है और this is a user and not an admin. The middleware will let it through. Request will come over here. And somewhere here it will fail when inserting it in the database because the admin doesn't exist. Over here, we will try to insert a course जिसकी admin है ही नहीं. There is no corresponding admin for it because the person that is sending the request is the user. So to avoid the user being able to call admin endpoints, हम इसका password और इसका password अलग रखते हैं. Middleware में भी when we write the middlewares very soon, we will have the admin middleware which will decode using this password, the user middleware which will decode using this password. Can we do a quick poll? And is this clear? Why the very common vulnerability you'll see when you are creating a platform like this where admins are different, users are different. All right, 87% is decent. Let's proceed either way. For the people who did not understand, the only thing that I taught in this section / was expected in this section was कि आप passwords अलग रखो. One password for admins and a different password for users. What is the next step? If you go to the readme.md, the next step was creating middlewares for both user and admin auth. पहले middleware बना लेते हैं, then we will write the real business logic. So how can we create middlewares? Let me create a new folder called middleware, inside which we will create a user.js file and a admin.js file. Now in this user.js file, let me define a function user middleware, which looks like this. Harkirat, what is this complicated middleware function you have written? We have discussed it in the middlewares class, so you should go back to it. This is how we have been writing middlewares until now. Harkirat, what are middlewares? You should go to the previous classes and understand it. What would the user middleware look like? Same like we have done until now, nothing new. Const token equal to rec.headers. Let's say token, or if you want authorization, either is fine. Let's say we expect the user to return it in the token header. Then what do we do over here? After we get the token, const jwt equal to require JSON web token. We have to do a const decoded equal to jwt dot verify, where the token is the first input and the second input is what? It is the JWT password. Now, where did I have the JWT password for users? I have it in route/user.js. So let me bring this password to this file and export this password from here. I repeat, what I can do is I can define this password here, export it over here at the end, and then import it in middleware.js or middleware/user.js. But that will create a circular dependency. I repeat, I am in user.js. यहाँ से, if I import JWT user password from routes/user.js, but routes/user.js will import this middleware from here. This will create a circular dependency. This file will start to import some things from here. This file will start to import the user middleware from here. To avoid that, मैंने यहाँ का सारा logic यहाँ ले आया. I am going to bring I can either repeat this variable in two places. That is bad practice. You shouldn't repeat the same variable or the same constant in two different places. Either I can define a separate file also. What's best is if I define a separate file called config.js, जहाँ पे I export all of these configuration variables. So let's do that. JWT user password is defined in config.js, a separate file. Even the admin password, let me define in a separate file called config.js. अब इससे सब लोग import करेंगे. config.js से route/admin would import, route/user would import, middleware/admin would import, middleware/user would import. Don't always avoid a circular dependency. They're very hard to debug. JavaScript doesn't give you a clear indication that you have a circular dependency. Your application just stops to work in a very weird way. So, figuring out a circular dependency is really hard. So that is why, thankfully, we were able to think a little ahead and avoid the circular dependency. What is a circular dependency? This file importing something from here and this file importing something from here. This is how we have resolved the circular dependency by putting everything in config.js. Now, let me export it from here. JWT admin password, JWT user password. Let me import it here in admin.js. Const JWT admin password equal to require /config. And the same import will happen in user.js. JWT user password. Okay? We have a lot of files now, but nothing too complicated, right? I just introduced a config.js file, moved my passwords over here, and this file I'm importing here in user.js now, here in admin.js now, and in these middlewares also. I'm not defining it, I will just import it. Const JWT user password. Simple enough. What do I have to do here? I will verify the password. If decoded exists, then I will set rec.userid equal to decoded.id. And then call next. If it doesn't exist, then I will let the user know you are not signed in. Something like this. Is that clear? Hopefully that's, did I seriously say, is that clear? Feels like I'm in school again. Is that clear, folks? So hopefully this is straightforward. Oh, we did a poll as well, even better. All right, 92% is great. Then admin middleware, simple enough. Copy the whole thing, paste it here, replace this with user admin password and return admin middleware over here. Okay, that is also simple. Then if the user middleware was simple, admin middleware is also simple. What have I done? I have created the two middlewares for our applications. Let's see if they work as expected or not. Let me go to routes/user.js, or maybe let's start with admin.js. Let's start to create courses now. Let's start to sign up endpoint is done. Sign in endpoint is done. Let's start to implement the course endpoint. This should be protected by the admin middleware. We should make sure that the admin is logged in. And if they are logged in, then control will reach here and we can say admin ID equal to rec.userid. What was the admin middleware doing? Admin middleware was setting rec.userid. Now, if you want, you can set it as creator ID or, admin ID doesn't matter. I have set it as user ID only, equal to decoded.id, because when we had encoded the JWT, in sign in, we had encoded it at the, the object had the key called ID. That is the key that we decoded in this middleware, which means this course endpoint, post course endpoint will have the admin ID. And what will we expect the user to give us? We'll expect the user to give us a title, a description, and a image URL for their course that they want to create, and the price. These are the 4 things we expect the user to give. And what do we have to do next? Course model dot create title, description, image URL, price, and admin ID. Let's see the schema. I wrote this a little too quickly. What does the schema look like for the course model? Let's go to db.js. Yahan pe, if I go to the course schema, it has title, description, price, image URL, creator ID. So title, description, image URL, price, and creator ID is the admin ID. If this feels complicated, then you can also write it like this. What is the bad thing over here that you should fix? We are taking an image URL from the user. Would be nice if the user can directly upload the image on our platform. You should go through a video of mine on YouTube, creating a Web3 SaaS in 6 hours, where I cover this. Okay, how can you build the pipeline for the user to upload images as well, so that you don't expect the user to give a URL, but the actual image file. Cool. This would create the course. Let the user know, message course created, and maybe give the user a course ID as well, which is going to be const course equal to this thing, and then course._id. Okay, I'm going to take a pause. I think I wrote this a little too quickly. You all understood user middleware. We understood admin middleware. What have I done over here? I have created another endpoint that lets an admin create a course for a specific price. Let's say, title, description, image URL, price, and admin ID. This is how you create a course in the database. Let me push this. Can you try to implement the put endpoint? The endpoint that lets you update a course. Let's say the user wants to change the title, the description, the image URL, or the price. The admin might want to change all 4 of these. Can you implement this? Add auth middleware implemented course post endpoint. So the code has been updated. This is the only endpoint that is left. Well, these two are the endpoints that are left. Yahan pe the user can get back all of the courses that they have created. Sorry, the admin can get back all the courses that they have created. Yahan pe the admin can get back, edit a course that they have created. Can you implement these two endpoints? Until then, I'm going to look at Q&A. Yes, someone said admin endpoint is open, so anyone can sign up as an admin. The answer is yes. Most of the Udemy, anyone can become a creator, so that's fine. You can let other people, anyone do it. Please use .env, sir. Sure. So let me also quickly do that. Someone mentioned using a .env. Let me go through. Should it be this const admin ID equal to rec.admin ID? Well, you tell me. Yahan pe what have I said? Const admin ID equal to rec.user ID. Where is this rec.user ID being set? It is being set in the admin middleware. In this admin middleware, what am I setting the key as? Now in this admin middleware, I set it as user ID. So of course I will decode it also as user ID. If I set it as ID or IDDDDD, whatever I update the request object to be over here is what the next route handler will get, right? So here I will, in this case, get IDDDDD. So it depends. It depends on you basically. What did you update the request object to be? And if you updated it to be user ID, even in the admin middleware, if you updated it to be user ID, that is what you will be getting over here. Can I move to .NET to MERN? Can I move from .NET to MERN? You can. I am thinking of learning .NET and Codeigniter for some reason. Don't ask me why. So, sure, keep moving stacks, doesn't really matter. Make sure you understand them well. I'm not thinking of moving. I just, came up as a consulting project. So I thought, let's read through it. Here, Kirat, okay, few questions. Payment gateway in this project, not in this project. It should be ideally, but there is no payment gateway yet in this project. Why should not use 404 in our server? I don't know what that means. Why should you not use 404 in our server? I don't know what that means. Instead of creating two middlewares for user and admin, can't we just create a single auth middleware for both? Well, you can, but how would you know where to, you can do something like, you can create a high level function. You can do something like this: function middleware which takes, a password as an input and then returns another function which has all of this logic. If you don't understand this logic, that's fine. But if you want to keep a single middleware, that middleware will look like this, where it will be a function that returns the middleware with the password passed in. So the password is what you can use over here. And now using this single middleware, I would replace the admin endpoints to be something like this: middleware of JWT underscore admin password. And in other places, I would do middleware of JWT underscore user password. So you can do it, but as you can see, it can complicate things. Let me keep this commented. You can look at it later on. I will push this to the repository. This is another way to do it if you want to merge both the middlewares together, is that you write a single middleware. Because what is the difference between both the middlewares? There is a lot of code repetition in our logic. If you see this admin middleware and this user middleware, में सिर्फ एक ही difference है. There is just one difference. Okay, what is the password? One guy is using jwt.user password, other guy is using jwt admin password. So you can create a higher level function over here, which takes कि यार आपको कौन सा middleware use करना है. Do you want this password to be used, or do you want this password to be used? So whoever is using this middleware can pass in that password and get back the underlying middleware basically. So you can merge them, but as you can see, it gets so complicated. Sometimes it's not the worst idea in the world to have duplicated code, because it's easy to understand. Whatever code I've written over here, a function which returns a function, can be a little complicated to digest. Is it best to send an email with JWT.sign? Because if we can get the database returns all the data based on the object ID. You can check this issue. Last week I faced the same problem, so I switched to using the email. Is it best to send an email? No. It is not best to. It is very bad to send an email. It is good to send an ID. Simply put, if a user wants to retrieve data, they can get all the data, which is very bad. It's better to retrieve data for a specific user's current email. Therefore, it's best to send email. No. So you're a little confused, or maybe I am. What am I signing over here in the sign-in endpoint? You are saying, Harkirat, in the sign-in endpoint, in the JWT, don't pass the ID, pass the email, so that in the future requests, you know कि किसका data आपको चाहिए. You know whose data you are fetching. But can't you get the email from the ID? If you have a user's ID, you have their email as well, right? So in all your endpoints, the problem that you are saying, कि Harkirat, अगर email नहीं डालेंगे, then the user will be able to fetch all the data. And the answer is not really. This ID के basis पे we will filter. This ID is what we will use everywhere to make sure the user is only getting back their data. Why is it better to put email also works, right? Harkirat, then I will use email. Yes, email sort of works, but what if your website has a functionality that lets the user change their email? When I sign up to facebook.com, I am logged in currently. Let's say I want to change my email from harkirat1@gmail.com to harkirat2@gmail.com. Now in the database, my email changed, but in my JWT, my old email is present. So that is a problem, right? ID never changes. IDs are immutable. Never do you change the ID of a user. Email user might want to change in the future, which is why it is a bad idea to have email in your token. Explain .env. So really quickly, let me take 5 minutes to explain .env, .env that I've keep talking about from time to time. Basically, there is one big problem in our current code base. The problem is, if you all go to github.com/ this specific repository index.js, you all can see my MongoDB password. In fact, there are a lot of scrapers that keep running, that keep fetching these, secrets from time to time. You can search throughout GitHub for this, and you can not here, like throughout GitHub, search for this. You might find a bunch of people who have publicly pasted their MongoDB URL. Let's see, is this a valid MongoDB URL? Most probably not. He said he's an example ANV file, but you never know. A lot of times, this guy, let's see. Let's copy his database URL. Brainstorm MVPD. Let's see if, he has committed his password. I've also done the same thing. But, maybe this guy has a cluster which, has a lot of sensitive data, or, I can use for my projects, whatever. People tend to commit their database URLs. I have done the same. So if I open MongoDB, I'm just now getting curious. A few years ago I did this, and if you search for Postgres, // throughout GitHub, you'll find a bunch of openly available Postgres servers. Here, as you can see, we found a bunch of openly available MongoDB servers. Who is this GFG Mern 3? ये सब पढ़ा रहे हैं कोर्सेज में, मैंने भी ये पढ़ा है. That is why I'm saying this is bad, and we'll understand the solution of this. Let's see though कि is this a valid database or not? This pizza user. It is. देखो बंदे ने अपना database ही दे रखा है, and I can look at his pizza DB, and I can see the orders that have been placed. Thankfully, this person is just learning about Flutter. Janak Luthra. Seems like someone from Delhi only. So you get the idea. It is a bad idea to commit your, passwords or database URLs on GitHub. Question is, how can you prevent that? How can you prevent committing your passwords? Like we have done the same thing. It's not like we are any better. If you look at our week 8 course selling project, at the top here we have my password. There are many ways to fix it. Number one is you do this dumb thing. Okay, acha, what I will do is in index.js, जब मैं locally test कर रहा हूँ, when I'm testing locally, then तो I will use this before committing my password, before committing to GitHub, I will empty it. हर बार मैं ये करूँगा कि यार मैं पहले तो हटा देता हूँ. I think my password is in there, let me remove it. So remove password or whatever, Mongo URL, and let me push my code to GitHub. And you might think कि यार हो गया, बच गया मैं. I had pushed my password and no longer it is there, but it is still there, right? It is still in this commit. I can still go over here and read through your original password. So it hasn't yet gone from Git history. The way to remove it from Git history is very complicated. You would just delete your repository and re-push a fresh commit over there. There is no easy way to get rid of history in Git. So step one should be you change your password in MongoDB, and then you might think I will not commit my password. When I'm testing locally, I will do this. I will make my changes, and then when I'm done making my changes, I will revert this. I will remove this, and then I will do my git add dot, and then I will push to GitHub. You might think this, but of course you will forget, right? Of course, from time to time, you will forget कि मुझे इसको हटाना था. तो a good idea to store secrets is in a .env file, a dot, which means it's a hidden file, .env file. यहाँ पे डालो भाई अपने सारे secrets. तो let's say I have a mongo underscore URL. Let me put it over here. Let's say I have my jwt underscore admin password. If you remember in config.js, I had jwt user password admin. These are also vulnerabilities, right? कि आपने अपने jwt secrets public किए हुए हैं. तो put them over here as well. jwt admin password, jwt user password. Have it in a separate file called .env file. And now this is something some of you might not know, but there is this file called .gitignore. I repeat, there is this file called .gitignore. I have already created one. यहाँ पे you can put .env. यहाँ पे put the files you want git to ignore. That is what .gitignore means. I put .env over here. What will this do? This will make sure that doesn't matter if as you can see, I ran git status. Do I see .env over here? I don't. If I try to push all of my changes, moved secrets to .env. If I try to push all of my changes, then you will see कि यहाँ पे I still don't see the .env file. Why? Because I had put it in .gitignore. So now locally I have all of these secrets, but I don't have to remember to remove them before committing. I don't have to come here again and again, make them empty, then commit, then undo them, and then start working locally. I can have these permanently on my machine. Git will make sure it never pushes them to GitHub. Do we understand this? This is part one, creating a .env. How do you use variables from here is a different question. क्या मुझे Mongo URL यहाँ से उठाना है? Rather than having a hard-coded URL here, I somehow want, env.mongo URL. I have to use a different variable over here. That is step 2. Do we understand step 1? Okay, put all of your secrets in a .env file. Maybe one more thing I will do before the poll happens is along with this .env file, there exists another file called .env.example. Whenever you create .env files, you create a .env.example file. कि यार जो भी इसको यूज कर रहा है ना, whoever is using my application, this is an example env file. This you commit. This you put on GitHub as well. This you push on GitHub so that whoever is setting up your project in the future, जो भी तुम्हारा project use कर रहा है, they can clearly see कि अच्छा इनकी example.env ऐसी दिखती है. This is the shape of the .env, and then that person can put their own MongoDB URL, their own JWT admin password, their own JWT user password. So the point of .env, and this is why you will find .env everywhere. If you open any repository, at the top level you will find a .env.test, .env.example. If you look at it, it has a bunch of secrets. They have been hard coded to, simple things. Okay, some local Postgres URL, some local public URL, some local secret, some local JWT secret. Nothing from production. These secrets, there is a separate .env file that exists on app.100xsteps.com that powers it. Wahan pe the Postgres URL is something else. On GitHub, everyone can see this. No one can see the real password on GitHub. So that is why you need .env files. That is how we have defined it over here. Let's do a quick poll and then I will show you how can you use these .env files in your project. Did we understand this? The benefit of using .env files? We did. So if we understand this, then question is how do you use it? Thankfully, environment variables are a very big concept. They're not just specific to this language. Every language you can inject environment variables. One way to do that is use an npm module called .env, DOTENV. npm install DOTENV. You can look at its docs on, npm.js, of course. So what does it do? .env is a zero dependency module that loads environment variables from a .env file into process.env variable. So what is it saying? Kya isko install kar lo and put this at the top of your file. Put this at the top of your index.js file. So in index.js at the top, put require .env.config. Put this at the top of your file and then you get access to all the variables. For example, if you want to get access to MongoDB URL, you can write process.env.mongo underscore whatever the key was over there, mongo underscore URL. So paste it over here. This is how I have replaced the plain text string now with an environment variable. And similarly, wherever we were using, thankfully we had everything here in the config.js file. So यहाँ पे I can be like, yeah, JWT user password will come from the .env file, process.env.this, and the admin password will also come from the .env file. So this is how you use environment variables. Can you see a very big call out over here? .env is a zero dependency module that loads environment variables. Can you guess why it is zero dependency? What does it mean to be zero dependencies? It means that iska package.json doesn't involve any other dependencies. If you remember, whenever I ran npm install express, मेरा node modules पूरा भर जाता था. I would get so many modules because express depends on a bunch of other modules. If I open express/package.json, you can see express itself depends on so many things. Express is not zero dependency, but .env is zero dependency. This thing, this library, एक फाइल में सारा कोड लिखा है, doesn't belong to, depend on anything else. Can you guess why this is a big thing? Why this is super needed? Because if this guy, if this guy depends on some guy and that has a vulnerability, that has some code vulnerability in there, then .env has that vulnerability, which means, everyone who's storing their secrets, things like these can get exposed to the world. So usually you should avoid using any library for parsing your .env variables. If you are using one, make sure it's zero dependency. Make sure it is, you are pinning the version. You are using a specific version of it that is well audited. You have yourself read through the code base. Ki, Achha, what exactly is this doing? Ki, Achha, okay, it is using fs probably to read a file. And this is probably a regex for it. This is the function that parses it. Read through the whole code. Make sure, the environment variable object that it is creating is, not messed up somehow. And since it is zero dependency, you don't have to check any of its dependents. You only have to check the code of this guy and make sure यहाँ कुछ shady तो नहीं हो रहा. And then use it. Otherwise, don't use it and write all of this logic yourself, because this is very secretive data and you don't want it publicly exposed or vulnerability. Cool. Let's see if it works. If I go back to index.js, let me just log process.env.mongo_url and see if does it get logged correctly. If I run node index.js, we see it gets logged correctly, which means good to go. Environment variables are getting picked from the .env file, and our GitHub is clean now. Our GitHub does not have any secrets committed inside it. Our GitHub is completely clean. Used .env for environment variables. Cool. That was easy. Hopefully you guys got that. And hopefully you guys have finished the endpoints. Let me finish them as well, and then we will do a quick huddle after that. Admin.js endpoints were whenever the user wants to create a course, that one I created for you. If the user wants to edit the course, then they will again, let's say, send us everything. They will send us the updated title, updated whatever. And then we can say course updated. And we can say this is an async function. And you will say course model.update. Now the question is, what does the update one function expect as arguments? Filters update options. So first thing it expects is a filter. कि कौन सी रो को चेंज करना चाहते हो आप? What course ID do you want to change? So underscore ID. Let's say the user gives us the course ID here as well. ठीक है? This. What have I written? I have written course model.update. जहां पे ये कोर्स आईडी है वहां पे अपडेट कर दो. एडमिन आईडी तो कभी अपडेट नहीं होगी, बट प्राइस को अपडेट कर दो, इमेज को अपडेट कर दो, डिस्क्रिप्शन को, टाइटल को. ये सही है? आर वी गुड टू गो? एनी प्रॉब्लम इन दिस गाइस? Why is everyone saying no? There's a very big problem here. Karu Guddi Lal, how can you guys miss it? No, there is a problem here. Come on. Creator ID. I think someone guessed it. Little. मैं कह रहा हूँ भाई ये एंड पॉइंट है, इसको हिट कर दो. एक तो चलो मैंने कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं मिडलवेयर, ठीक है, आई एडेड द मिडलवेयर, दैट इज फाइन. आई एम सेइंग एनी एडमिन कैन हिट दिस एंड पॉइंट एंड आई विल अपडेट द कोर्स आईडी दे सेंट मी. अब अगर इफ आर प्लेटफॉर्म हैज टू क्रिएटर्स, आर प्लेटफॉर्म हैज फ्लाइंग बीस्ट, आर प्लेटफॉर्म ऑल्सो हैज दैट अदर गाय ध्रुव राठी. ध्रुव राठी कैन सेंड अ रिक्वेस्ट to /API, a put request to /API/v1/course/ update, and they can say course ID जो flying beast का course है, flying beast course ID, and update its price to be 0. Dhruv Rathi, a different creator, can send a request with the course ID of flying beast, and the different creator will be able to change the data in here. What am I missing here? कि यार I need to make sure first कि ये course ID जो बंदा भेज रहा है, is this course ID belonging to this admin or not? If I don't do this check, then Dhruv Rathi can change Flying Beast का course का price, or a different creator's price. Creators should not be allowed to change each other's course prices. Creators should only be allowed to change their own course price. So the first check I should do over here is, does this course ID belong to this guy? Or what I can do is कि यार अपडेट द कोर्स जहाँ पे कोर्स आईडी ये है जो ध्रुव राठी भेज रहा है, एंड क्रिएटर आईडी ध्रुव राठी की आईडी है. वो ही कोर्स अपडेट करना जिसमें ये दोनों कंडीशंस मीट हो. only update the course where ID is this for the course and creator ID is this. Now if Dhruv Rathi sends the wrong, flying beast ID here, then this field would mismatch. हमारे database में तो यहाँ पे creator ID would be flying beast. But when the update gets called, what we will pass would be Dhruv Rathi's ID. So that is why it will not be able to find a doc. It will not be able to find a document जहाँ पे course ID ये है and creator ID ये है. It can find a course with the ID, course ID. It can find a course with the creator Dhruv Rathi. But it cannot find a course with the course ID Flying Beast का, creator ID, admin ID का. So this much will be enough for you to protect your database from creators updating each other's database. Or if you want, you can do a bigger explicit test here, right? Const course equal to await course model dot find one, जहाँ पे course ID is course ID or whatever, underscore ID is this, and creator ID is admin ID. You get the idea. And if course doesn't exist, then you can early return over here कि भाई ये course तो तुम्हारा है ही नहीं. Whose course are you trying to update? So that is what was the vulnerability. Hopefully that's simple enough. Updating a course is easy. This should do it. And then getting all of your own courses, how difficult can that be? Okay, first add the middleware and then return the user all of their courses, which is as simple as course model dot find. Const admin ID equal to rec dot user ID. Find all the courses for the specific creator and then just return it to them. And यहाँ पे update one is fine. Everything else is fine. Let me push this code. Then let's test it and write the front end for it really quickly, so that at least the admin side is sorted. The code has been pushed. If I run it locally now, let me quickly try it. Abhi tak we have only written the admin side. We have not written the other side. All of you that were following along, now you have to locally create a .n file and paste the credentials over there. It will not work for you immediately anymore. I have changed the code. You have to create a .n file first, pre-fill it, and only then will it work for you. Otherwise it won't work. Let me hit the first endpoint admin/sign up with some first name, last name, whatever. It crashed because I'm creating a duplicate entry. This is where one of the to-dos would have helped. Let me call this flyingbeast@gmail.com. Password 123123. Flying Beast was able to sign up. Let me call dhruvrati@gmail.com. Password is, let's say, the same. Sign up succeeded. Let me make Flying Beast sign in once. I got back a token. Let me make Flying Beast create a course. Let me go to headers. And what will I do? I will add a token header over here. That is how sign-in works, if you remember until now. Okay, whenever the user is now sending me a request to, let's say, create a course, then they have to pass me a token along with it. This is the token I've pasted. What would go in the body? Body would be, what did we expect in the body? These four things. So title, what would he like to teach? How to make ghee, or something like that. What would the description be? In this course we will understand how to make protein, let's say. And what would the image URL be? Now this is where right now our application is a little ugly and we need to search for a ghee PNG file and copy image address for now. They're all base 64 addresses. I'm trying to find a simpler one. Copy image address. There you go. This is my image URL for the course. My price, let's say, is only $599. Now here is another vulnerability that we will talk about eventually, but ideally it should be this. It should not be $599. Why, we will talk about eventually. I just want to call this out. An admin ID I don't have to send. This would let me create a course. Let me send. It says course created. This is the ID of the course. Okay. Let me put this course ID somewhere. I will put the Flying Beast course ID over here. This is the Flying Beast course ID. Now let me quickly sign in as Dhruv Rathi. So I'm going to sign in as the other creator now. What was his email that I chose? Dhruv Rathi. I think that was it. Send incorrect credentials. There you go. This is the other creator now. That other creator signed in. And let's say the other creator is now trying to update the course. Put request. How can you update the course? The course can be updated by sending a put request to /course. That other creator is trying to update the course, trying to set the title to be ghee in free, and whatever, changing the description to be free, and setting the price to be, let's say, 0, and changing the image URL to be his own image or something like that. And what is the fifth field he has to pass? The course that he's trying to update. The course that he's trying to update is the Flying Beast course. He's trying to update the course of this guy. Let's see if he can do that. This is the updated course details that he's sending. In my database, currently, what does the... Oh. In my database, what does currently the course look like? And hopefully you get the idea. This won't work. This endpoint would, not be able to update Flying Beast's course, but it will be able to update Dhruv Rathi's own course. He can update his own course. He cannot update the other course. Let me quickly connect. Let me go to Hakirat course app. If you look at the users or whatever, admins, we have a lot of them, but we have Flying Beast and Dhruv Rathi. If I go to courses, we have a course by Dhruv Rathi or whatever, Flying Beast to create a ghee or whatever. If this guy tries to update it, let's see what happens. It says course updated over here, but kya the course actually got updated? Let's see. If I refresh, has the course been updated? No, it has not. Why? Because there was no row that was found. There was no row that was found with underscore ID as course ID. Course ID is this. But the creator ID, Dhruv Rathi ID, ki koi row hi nahi hai. The creator ID is Flying Beast ID over here. So hopefully that's clear enough. You should actually, do the early check and return the user ke course does not exist or something like that, or you don't have access. But this also works. As long as the user is not able to update it, you are good. Cool. Will Flying Beast be able to update it? Yes, they would be able to update it. If I go back here and, go back to Flying Beast's token, change the token to be the other guys. And if I now send and refresh, you will see the ghee has been changed. The price has gone down to 0 because the right creator is updating it. Lastly, the get endpoint that will return you all of your courses. Course/bulk. It returns that currently you have just one course. If you want, you can add more courses. Are we good to go? Can we move on to the front end? For this, we can do two things. We can either complete the backend or we can write the front end for this so that, everything else can be an assignment or, done later. So we can decide which one of the two to do. Before that, are we good to go? Is this easy enough? Let me push the code as well. Oh, code is already pushed. Akash, can we do a poll? We can also take a pause if you want. If this is already very overwhelming, we can take a pause. Or ideally, I would like to, let me do the poll myself. I think Akash is a little busy. Polls and launch poll. सबको समझ आ गया? Are we good to go? Everyone understands? All right. Beautiful. 95% is great. 91% is also great. There are two things you can do now, or three things. Let me create that poll, and whatever you guys decide, we can do. Actually, you know what? Let me just take a pick. Why do another poll? Let's complete the backend, because it will teach you one more thing, which is going to be relationships in MongoDB. And you will have the backend complete. Front end I will do in an offline video. Okay, so I'm going to just pull the trigger on this. We have implemented the admin endpoints completely. All of the code is pushed. Not too difficult to build the user endpoints next. Sign up, sign in to mani rakhe hain. Sign up and sign in are already done. What are the other endpoints? An endpoint that lets the user get their purchases. So this needs to be gated by the user middleware. And what does it need to return? This is where we are going to learn about relationships in Mongo. But before we get there, there should be a post endpoint to purchase a course. Yeah, we define it in a separate place. Either is fine. So what we have done is, when the user wants to purchase a course, when the user wants to buy a course, we don't accept payments right now. Our platform is a little weird that way. Assume all of our courses are free, because we do not want to get into the complications of understanding Razorpay. So right now the user can just send a request to this user middleware. User will just send a request here, where we are going to purchase the course for them, which means just, add an entry in the purchases table. We have not yet touched the purchases table at all, which, if you remember, stores a mapping. Okay, this user has bought this course. This user has bought this course. So what do we have to do in this purchase endpoint? We get the user ID. We get the course ID as rec.body.course ID, and simply do a user model dot, purchase model dot create an entry for this user ID and this course ID. Okay, this course has been bought by this user. You can put a check over here to see if the user has already bought it. Avoid twice buying the same course, something like that. But this is also fine. And here we can say you have successfully bought the course. Now our application does not have any course content. Ideally, our application should have another field in the database, another table called course content, जहाँ पे we store course का video number 1, video number 2, PDF number 3, assignment number 4, and so on and so forth. That is something you should build. Right now, when the user buys, they don't really get anything extra. They don't see any content because our database doesn't store any content. Purchase endpoint is simple enough. Preview endpoint should just give the user all the courses that currently exist. एक वो होगा ना, buying page होगा where user can come. When you go to harkira.classics.co.in, you can see all the courses over here if you go to the courses tab. So this endpoint, the courses endpoint, is what we're trying to implement. So this preview endpoint will return you all the current courses in the database. So this though doesn't even need to be authenticated. Even if I'm not logged in on harkira.classics.co.in, I'm not logged in, yet I see all the courses, right? Course information तो दिखनी चाहिए बंदे को, thumbnail, price, things like these. So this endpoint doesn't even need to be authenticated. What should it do? Const courses equal to await course model dot find empty array, which means give me all the courses, and then simply return the courses to the user. Hopefully these endpoints are simple. Purchase endpoint and the preview endpoint. The last endpoint for the user is to see all of their purchases. Simple enough. Get the user ID. Make sure you're using the user middleware, and then user model purchase model dot find. find all of them for this user ID. Const purchases equal to this thing, and then return the user their purchases. These are the 3 endpoints that we have created. There is a small feature that is left right now, but high level, let's see if we understand. Okay, one endpoint I created that lets the user create a fresh purchase. Now, ideally, here you should check that the user has actually paid the price. Right above it, there should be a check. Let's ignore the check for now. And then we create an entry in the database. Preview will give you all the current set of courses in the database. And lastly, the get endpoint / purchases will give you your purchases. Let's see if it works or not. Let me push the code so you can try it on your side as well. Added purchases, endpoints for users. Again, the only thing that's left here is course content. If you add a course content, then you have every feature of, not every feature, like some features of a course selling. You can actually sell a course there because you have the various videos stored, actual course content stored. All right, let's see if this works. If I run npm run dev, go to Postman, and now sign up as a user. I sign up as a user with some username and password. Let's say Harkirat is the user on the platform. API v1 user sign up. Post request. It says sign up successful. Then I will sign in as the same user. It returns me back my token. Now I will look at all the courses. I will first put the token in the header. I don't need the token in the header for the first request. If you remember, /course/preview did not authenticate the user. So I will get back the current courses. Currently there are, a lot of courses that some of you created, one ghee course that I created. So, bunch of these courses, I can get their details. And even if I don't send the token, then also I can get the details because this is a unauthenticated endpoint. If I go over here and look at user.js or whatever, you will see not user.js, course.js, you will see this preview endpoint doesn't have any middlewares. So anyone can hit it. I can hit it here as well. For the other endpoints, the first endpoint to actually purchase a course, I will send a post request to /API/v1/course/purchase. That is correct. And here I will send the course ID that I want to buy. Let's say I want to buy the Flying Beast course over here. So I will pass the course ID. Click on send. And it says you have successfully bought the course. Well, let's see. Let me get all of my purchases. So there was this other endpoint that we had defined in user/purchase. So /user/purchases should give me all of my purchases. When I send a request over here, the backend crashes. It says purchase model is not defined. So let me import the purchase model at the top. Let me resend the request. And now as you can see, something happened. It returned me my purchase, but it's not very readable data. It returned me, okay, Harkirat, this user ID, you have bought this course ID, but course ka title kahan hai? Where is the title of the course? Where is the image of the course? When I go to the purchases section on harkira.classes.co.in, after you log in, you see a purchases section over here. When you click on purchases, it shows you a card like this with the image with the title. But our backend is simply returning us some, IDs. It is returning us the course ID. It is telling you this course has been bought. It is not returning you its title, description, things like these. This is where you can do one of two things. You can either do the ugly thing, which is over here. You can be like const courses data equal to await course model dot find, where underscore ID is one of these course IDs. If this array had 2 entries, then you would have said course ID is either basically purchases.map x._id. I will explain what this is right now. Let me just first show you how can you get back the courses data as well. We want कि इस request में सिर्फ ये ना है कि ये purchases हैं. I just don't want just the purchases. I also want कि the course ID that I have purchased, what is the title of that course, what is the description of that course. If I send the request now, it looks something like this. I would have hoped this would have just worked. It did not. So we will have to see how do you do a find in Mongo array ID. Oh, $in, where ID in this thing. Let's try that. I will explain the code. I'm just trying to finish it first. Still did not work. Find where ID : in : this thing. Where ID, that looks right. Course is equal to this thing or find. I'm sure I'm missing something obvious here, and you guys can already see the obvious thing, but let me try to debug it. There you go. This worked. Then why did this not work? Purchases.map x._id.toString. The good old console.log purchases. If I log, oh, I guess you guys already saw this, right? This needs to be course ID. Sorry about that. There we go. What have I done? I have said, give me all my purchases. But unfortunately, ये जो purchases model है ना, it only stores user ID, course ID mappings. It does not store the actual data. So this purchases model doesn't actually store the title description of the course. वो तो एक sort of a foreign key है ना, that is sort of a reference to this courses schema. So I did the ugly approach of, okay, let me first get the purchases. After I got the purchases, let me get the course data. How did I get the course data? I said course model.find. Find me a course जिसकी ID is in this array. The ID is in. Now I can यहाँ पे create an array like this. 1, 2, 3. Okay, give me a course जिसकी ID is either 1 or 2 or 3. Or I can write something like this. Okay, the ID is in purchases, which is, this array right here, dot map x.course ID, which means convert this array of objects to an array of strings with these course IDs. So that would convert this array into this array. Hopefully map you guys already know. Hopefully you understand what is happening over here. Purchases.map x.course ID. If this feels overwhelming, you can also do something like this. Let purchased course IDs equal to empty array. For let I equal to 0, I less than purchases dot length I plus plus, and then purchased course IDs dot push purchases of I dot course ID. So if this map syntax feels very weird, even though it does the same thing that these 4 lines of code do, the same thing this line does, you can also do these 4 lines of code, which would, first declare an empty array and then push all the course IDs one by one into this guy. And then, yahan pe you can put this thing. So this also works if this is, easier to digest. Cool. That is the ugly way to do this. There's a better way to do this called references. Let's do it in a while tomorrow or, in an offline video. I'm also happy to do it right now. But I think there's a lot to cover for one day. Our application backend is complete. backend is now able to return all the endpoints. All the endpoints are populated, right? What did readme.md say? Readme.md said, complete all the routes, create the front end. This is the only thing that is left. Everything else we were able to do. And if you already were able to do this, hopefully you created the front end. If you had created the front end already, hopefully you created in EJS or React. If you had done that as well, maybe you used cookies for authentication instead of headers. Those are the next steps of things that you can do. I'll recap it. Good to haves include use cookies instead of JWT, and you can add this as well. And front end in EJS. No need to do this. This is like low priority because no one uses EJS right now. Front end in React. Try the last one because next week we are going to start React. So it might be good for you to get your hands a little dirty and try to understand React a little bit. Try to write the front end. These are good to have that you should do. This though should be straightforward, but I'll also create a video creating the front end. Or at the very least, I'll post the code of the front end. If needed, I can create a video as well. Added last set of endpoints. All right, I think class ends here. If you have questions, I'm here to answer, and I would love to do one last poll. Okay, did you understand everything? Are we good to go? And meanwhile, chat is also open. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Also, if you understood everything, feel free to call it. All right. End में थोड़ा हिल गया 85%. Here's the correct and improved version of your question. How long does it take to become a proficient full stack developer? I am beginner development, started learning in Kahoot 3. I'm completing all the assignments, understanding the lectures you've taught in the course. However, I feel like I need to improve much more. Yeah, if you've just started, I don't think 2 months are enough. And also the speed at which we're going, only after 4 months can you say you know enough to write a website, create a website after we complete Tailwind, React, and Postgres and Prisma. Tailwind, React, Postgres, Prisma are 4 important things before you can, even think of calling yourself whatever full stack developer. And keep practicing is the only thing I will say. And if you've just started 2 months ago, it will take you around 6 months at the very least to, get comfortable. Unless you're doing a lot of hard things, which I can tell you we're not yet in Cohort 3. We're going very slow. So, start to pick up some hard things if you really want to accelerate even faster. How much? Yeah, as I said, 6 months is great. If you're doing practicing enough for 6 months, then 6 months is decentish timeline for becoming great at full stack. Like literally great, at least at one stack. Quick recap. If you are good in Golang, you should. If you want a job in Web3, even though if you're good in Golang, there are a lot of web DevOps projects in Golang that you can, one YC company is Glasscube, I think, that I saw in the last batch, which is open source that you can look at. They're in Golang. I would contribute there. Or there's this Cosmos ecosystem in Web3 if you really want to go into Web3, but Cosmos hasn't been doing very well, so I don't know if there's a lot of funding there. All right. Someone said quickly recap. I will recap the most difficult endpoint for today, which was the give me all of my purchases endpoint. This last endpoint over here. Now this endpoint was a little weird. What this endpoint does is it first finds all your entry in the purchases table. If you have heard of joins in SQL, they would have come in handy over here. If we used joins in SQL, they would have come in handy over here, but we are not learning SQL to begin with. And also we have not yet used relationships in Mongo, which is why we had to write this ugly code. What is this ugly code? Okay, first give me all the purchases, but unfortunately this only has a mapping. Okay, this user bought this course. This user bought this course. It has a mapping like this. It only returned me this. What do I want? Okay, this user bought this course, but what was the actual content? What was the title? What was the description? Things like these. So what did I do? I said, मैं पहले सारी purchases निकाल लूँगा. I will take out all the purchases. Then I will create a new array called purchased course IDs. And then I will get all the entries in the course model table with this specific ID in, this array. If the user had bought 5 courses, if this guy had bought 5 courses, I need to put 5 courses in here in the course data. So I can show it in the front end, right? Eventually the front end needs to show these. Okay, you have purchased this course, this course, this course. So I convert this, complex array, array of objects into a simple array of strings. This guy right here. And then I say, find me a course where the ID is in any of these. कोई भी इनमें से ID होगी तो give me that course. Then I return that course to the user. Hopefully that is straightforward. If not, you should code it a little bit and understand it. Everything is pushed to GitHub. Notion doc, GitHub. Tailwind after React. So the pace at which we are going, we might do React for a month. 4 weeks basically, and then Tailwind. But let's see. Hopefully, we can, in a few offline videos, I can cover things like hooks, so that we don't spend that much time. But my guess is it would be a month of React, which means you get the idea. Tailwind after that. All right, I've opened all the Notion docs. So yesterday you asked what I use for mailing OTP. You use Node Mailer, but so that means you got SMTP credentials from somewhere, right? Because Node Mailer isn't a mailing API. It's just a high-level API that expects you to give SMTP credentials. Implement everything now. Very cool on this specific thing. Clean up the UI a bit. One skill you should start to learn is clean UIs. What are clean UIs? Stripe is a clean UI. If you have, or Heygen ka landing page, if you guys have seen. If you can clone this, I can almost tell you, kahin na kahin to naukri lagi jayegi bhai. Not this, but their landing page. If I open the landing page of Heygen, heygen.com. This, it's like nice. You should build websites like this. Have 5 websites like this, somewhere in your portfolio, and you'll be sorted. It's like very clean. So look like this. That's the bar. So niche sochna bhi nahi hai. This is also decent, but still not Heygen level. It's also pretty good though. All right. Receiving alerts on my GitHub repo. How should I resolve it? Dependency alert bots. Please start uploading offline videos. Need to start with React ASAP. Sure, I don't mind. We have a lot of videos from last cohort. If you want to speed it up, I can speed it up, and offline videos can help us there. A simple, elegant blog of where were you getting those? What were those? Inefficient regular expression complexity in nth check. Detected in nth check. Where are these coming up? Issues. Where do these come up? How can I see them? Maybe I can't see them, but it is clearly telling you, right? Okay, there are some vulnerabilities. Unless they're high, वैसे feel free to ignore. But for example, this one is telling you, okay, Webpack's auto public path runtime module has a DOM clobbering gadget that leads to XSS. It is basically telling you this specific version of WebApp that you might be using has a specific vulnerability, so upgraded, downgraded, something like that. How do you get these? I have never turned on dependency alert on my repository, so I don't know. Let me shelve this, come back to this after I go through all the other ones. Not today's download missed on Friday. Is seeds similar to wallet phrase seeds? No. I'm assuming your question is, are seeds in PDAs similar to wallet phrase seed? And the answer is no. Completely different. It's the comparison between a tomato and a broom. So like completely different things. Seeds are basically mnemonics that let you generate key pair file. That is correct. Where are other off-the-curve addresses used? Off-the-curve addresses are used. Why would you use a public key that doesn't have a private key? I don't know. I don't think they might be used somewhere. No example that I can think of. But the way Solana uses them, or the ingenious thing that you can say Solana did was, we want to avoid this problem of, I'm going, Web 2 class where I'm discussing Web 3, but it is pretty ingenious. They said, we have a very weird data model. Our data model looks like this. Okay, data is never stored in one account like, Ethereum does. Data is not stored in one account, but multiple accounts. There is one program like the Uber program which has user 1's data over here and user 2's data over here, user 3's data over here. तो what they said was कि यार ये जो addresses है ना, इनको ऐसा बनाते हैं कि no one can ever find their private key. If you create an address and its private key can be found, then anyone can sign a transaction using this on this specific address, right? This is the Uber program. बेचारे Uber वाले, this person who wrote this program stored the user one's information over here. But what ended up happening, जहाँ पे information stored थी, the public key of this specific, account, let's say someone else found its corresponding private key as well. Now this someone else can sign on the behalf of this account. To avoid that, Solana said कि यार जब भी data store करना है ना, whenever you want to store data, store it in a PDA. And the algorithm to generate that PDA, as you saw, adds a bump seed to the end to make sure that wherever you are storing data is off the curve, does not have a private key. No one can ever generate its private key. It can never have a private key only. So that way this address can never be signed by anyone else. There is no corresponding private key for this public key. So no one can sign on the behalf of this address. Only the parent program can. That is just written in the Solana runtime. Okay? The program from which a seed has been derived, an address has been derived, can sign on behalf of this guy. And since there is no private key, no one else can. But the seeds that are present over here that we talked about, whatever they were the other day, the owner and the token account and the mint account, or whatever token account address, token program is, I guess, a better thing. The seeds that we talked about here are very different from the mnemonic seeds. They are used to derive private keys. These are used to derive, even though both sound like they're doing the same thing, deriving a public key, they're very different things, the seed phrases that we've talked about usually are part of a certain subset of words, English letter words. This, as you saw, can have English letter words, but usually has, these public addresses as well. So yeah, that is why, they're very different. All right, what was the other question you had? I'm building a platform for Smart India Hackathon where it finds end receivers of cryptocurrency transactions. Got it. You're trying to trace a wallet or whatever. Thing is, how can I say corresponding wallet and wallet transaction with a SEX? How do you find? So thankfully, Binance, FTX, they have very publicly available addresses. So that is how you know this leads to a SEX. Go through Chainalysis. Go through a video on YouTube that shows you Chainalysis. I don't think you can sign up over here. But if you can, then try to track an address over here. It will show you. Or even these guys also did this, right? OX people, dekh lo. Open OX people. Open a random wallet address here. For example, let me open my MetaMask wallet address here. So you will see they show you the whole connection of, are they making me sign a transaction? कहाँ होता है इसका ग्राफ करके एक सेक्शन होगा यहाँ पे एक्टिविटी where is it? Oh, there you go. As you can see, this is me and it is showing all the addresses I interacted with. And can you see, eventually it is always ending at an exchange. क्या exchange के बाद नहीं हमें पता क्या हुआ. But this person interacted with an address which interacted with Coinbase. So most probably maybe this is, whoever is sending this person, or let's say Coinbase sent money here, from which money was sent here. So Coinbase will know who withdrew money from the Coinbase platform to send a transaction over here. So you can send a subpoena to Coinbase and ask कि भाई तुमने जब यहाँ पैसा भेजा था, when you sent money to this address, who asked for that withdrawal? And then Coinbase will tell us that this person asked, this is their KYC information. Similarly, if you see here, it ends at Binance over here, it ends at Binance over here. So it ends at Bybit over here. So most crypto addresses you will see now, they will end at a SEX only. In the end, there are most of the transactions are originating from a centralized exchange. So you can always basically build something like this. And if you've built that, then you have sort of built what you're looking for, right? Which is, given a public key, you need to find its connection to an exchange so that you can ask the exchange कि भाई, why did this person interact with you? Why did this person interact with you? या तो यहाँ से पैसा यहाँ गया है. Either you have sent money to the centralized exchange, or the exchange, you have withdrawn money from the exchange. Either way, Coinbase will know. Actually, you can't send money directly to Coinbase exchange. You send money to some place. This is most probably my deposit address on Coinbase. So I sent money to my deposit address. Eventually, Coinbase swept that specific money. So, Coinbase knows this is Harkirat's deposit address. So Coinbase, you can link my public key to Coinbase. That is how you can't do that unless you work at Coinbase or you send a subpoena to Coinbase and, ask them, oh, this person has done something bad. Chain analysis does the same thing. All right. So just build something like this. It's a good project. Can Solana update the already existing or older token program instead of the creating new ones? They could if the upgrade authority on those programs was not null. If you go to the token program on explorer.solana.com, whenever you put a program on chain, initially it has an upgrade authority, which means it can be upgraded. Do you see any upgrade authority here anymore? No, it has been set to null. So since there is no upgrade authority, no, it's completely immutable now. No one can change it. They can only create a new version. Do you about temporary email generators with inbox where we can sign up the most website here? What is the question? Do you know about them? I have used them, but what is your question? How to keep doing assignments and keep learn be as close class week? I mean, this, so you have to figure out to, take out time. Fine. We don't have, it shouldn't take more than 5-6 hours to build the assignments. Manage. 1 week off would make sense to cover things up. Sure, we do this in the code from time to time. This one is going really slow. I don't want this, but we can do a poll if everyone wants this. We can take a pause. Maybe not in Web3. Web3 already only has 1 classes, but WebDev we can take a course, a pause. Done. Any red flags in here? This is a review for the current project. The .env example, great. Server, controllers, very nice. JS. User cannot purchase their own course. That is good. Instructor._id.string. rec.user_id equal to rec.course purchased. What is happening here? Rec.course purchased. Where are you updating the request to have? Okay, where are you putting this course purchased in the request object is what I'm looking for next. Where is the purchase course this guy being called? So you have a few middlewares that you're using. Specifically, the one is course valid middleware, which I think is the one that shoves a few things in the request object. Yes. I don't know if this is great practice. I get what you're saying or what you're trying to do. I don't know. This may be good, this may not be good. You're trying to avoid code duplication by adding a is course valid function, but not everything needs to be a middleware. Maybe this does though. This actually is not bad. Is course valid, gets the course ID, checks whether this is good only. This is not bad. And then to avoid you sending another database request, you do this. What does check course do? Yeah, it's slightly opinionated what you've done over here, but it isn't bad. This is a good thing to have this as a middleware. So I wouldn't say this is bad. The only thing that ticked me off a little was shoving something to the request object, but it probably makes sense to do because you want to avoid this database call again. So it's good. You just have to explain this to me a little bit, and you have good reasons for doing what you've done. So no red flag. Yeah, so I need to update this. My question was, where did you get SMTP credentials from? Basically, more around that. I have a doubt. I'm passing the token from front end for every request, otherwise not authenticating me. I am passing the token from the front end for every request, otherwise it is not authenticating me. So that is correct. You should. Password must contain at least one. Oh, this is good. login, to-dos. Sorry, what's your question again? This looks right. If you don't pass the token, it should not be authenticated. Did he put something here? What is this? Portfolio. Good. Done. Please read everything and reply. If they got some question on the Super 30 program, a little about me. No, I'm considering whether paid. So Super 30 is closed for now. So this question we can defer for some time. So abhi ke liye to it is closed. So there's no point of this question right now. Like we were able to reach 30 people. Fortunately, unfortunately for this one. But wait for this one. Let's see how it goes. It's a good thing for you to see from the sidelines. A lot of experimentation happening. If it works out, you can join the next one. Hopefully, if there is one. If not, then it means it didn't work out anyway. So good for you. You saved the money. So don't worry too much. Don't feel any FOMO. All right, cool. We will do one more round of questions. Then we will call it. Any more questions, guys? All right, we'll pause it. Can we replace the last endpoint logic with SQL query? I mean, if you know SQL, so what database are we using? MongoDB. What is MongoDB? It is a NoSQL database. You can't write an SQL query for it at all. Can be often used to cover the topics and projects in live class. We can do that. Let me do a poll. I don't mind. This sounds good to me. Topic. Cover the topic offline. Cover the projects in a live class. That sounds good to me. We can do that. Let's do a poll and decide. Notion doc. So you can't. The person who asked, no, you can't replace it with SQL. It is a NoSQL database. But you can do something similar to joins and foreign keys in Mongo, or more specifically Mongoose. So that was what But that is what our relationships in MongoDB. But I'll cover that in an offline video. But yeah, I was arranging. So now, yeah, sorry about that. It is closed for now. But if a lot of people I'm doing one-on-one meetings with everyone. If it might open up again, if a lot of people we're not able to match with a lot of people, so feel free to buy it. I think that link is still open. But you'll probably go in some waitlist thingy, and basically feel free to buy it. I'm going to interview everyone on Wednesday, and then we might remove a few people who are a little early, and then there might be more space. Basically, I want a week with no class. We'll try, man. It'll depend on a poll. If people want it, we can do it. I've seen the codes and I have 2 files for indexes. Both are corrected somehow. Why? They use, I'm in college, so I'm ChatGPT for codes. I understand everything clear, but not give me confidence to code. I've seen some code with 2 files, server and index.js. Both are connected somehow. Oh yeah. You will have to show me the files. There are various reasons for you to have a different app.js file, server.js file, index.js file. Show me the exact repository so I can tell you, why there are 2 files. What are they doing? Need review on Algo Arena design. You should always post videos on designs. Peer test is by components to facilitate ongoing. Yeah, this allows to. Oh, there you go. Sorry about that. Old app bar, new app bar looks good. The problem with algorithm Karina is a lot of people are working on it. Like there is a team from Super 30 working on it. I think some of 30 working on it. I think some of these designs are already created. This is nice. Where are we sending OTPs again? Oh, this looks good. This looks good. This looks good. Looks good. This looks good. This looks good. This looks good. Yeah, there are a lot of merge conflicts, but if no one else has created yours is the first one, I'm happy to merge it. What is this? Active contest. What is this? Active contest overview, problems and leaderboard. yeah, this UI is perfect for, you know, a V1 or whatever, V2, or, you know, basically we can launch with this UI. There are a lot of merge conflicts that probably are because some people have already done some parts of it. So we need better coordination here to make sure, you know, people aren't conflicting with each other's work. That said, you should check what all is already implemented here, and if there is anything left, do it. And, you know, I'll prioritize your PR. That's a TLDR. So, you know, for now, there are a lot of conflicts for me to even try this out. So resolve the conflicts, and then then just tag me again, and I'll look at it. How can you reach out to me? Yeah, just tag me over here. You know, whenever you're done with the conflicts, I'll look at it. Is it okay to focus only on design for now, as I plan to design almost all the pages without him? Yeah, that's fine. Can you please review the designs for now? Designs look good. As I said, they're very good. By which I mean, you know, enough for a V1. We can see how the UX changes eventually, but for now, this is good. On the instant word meaning, Chrome extension provides users the ability to meaning of any word without leading the current page. Simply select a word and shows the definition. This tool is perfect for enhancing productivity. Okay. The execution uses vanilla JavaScript and doesn't require external libraries. Definition are fetched from free dictionary API. Limitations thing. Oh, you build this. Okay. It's good, man. Current effect. I have this thing. You use this to send. Yeah, sounds good. Looks pretty good. I'm very finicky of installing extensions, which is why I won't. But yeah, decent thing to build. I want to answer that. So that, did I look at that? I think I did. If Git doesn't push N file on GitHub, then how can I deploy it on Vercel? Or should I deploy backend on AWS? What's the best approach? Yeah. So wherever you're deploying, if you've ever used Vercel, it'll give you a section where it lets you describe your env file. So if I open one of my projects here, go to settings, go to environment variables. And here, as you can see, I have a few Google Client ID, Google Client secret. So whatever environment variables I had put in my .env file, which is, 1, 2, and 3, I will just put them over here. I will add those environment variables over here, and you're good to go. So yeah, you don't push it to GitHub. It doesn't get pulled by default to your server, AWS, Vercel. You add an explicit env file over there. That is done. Ankita, thank you for the learning. I'm doing great. Pace is good. This is my Nexus project. All right. When we compare the method for salt, we didn't pass in the salt to compare the method. What is the meaning of rounds in GenSalt? Salt can be a random string. If salt is different for every password, how bcrypt compare method? No, if you remember, do I have a password over here? Yeah, if you look at this string, as I said, if you remember from the class, this mentions the version of bcrypt you are using. This mentions the number of rounds that you're running. And after this $, the first few strings are the salt, and then the rest of it is the password. So some 16 bytes or 32 bytes of string is the salt after this. So this specific password encodes everything. The version of bcrypt you are using, the number of rounds you took, the current salt that is being used, and the final password. That is how it is able to. Without the salt is stored in the database. It's just stored along with the password over here. Bcrypt compare password. The hash password contains this. Okay, the hash password, but the plain text password doesn't have a salt. How does it compare salt? The hashed password has the salt, right? निकाल लेगा यहाँ से. The compare function, inside the compare function, if you look, it will take out the salt from here. Then it will put the salt with the plain text, hash it again. So it will just pull out. It will pull out the hash from here. It will pull out the number of rounds you took. It can pass this string, right? You've passed the hash password. इसमें से निकाल लेगा वो. How many rounds are there? What is the current salt? It will be able to extract that, and then it will run the same hashing algorithm on plain text. Doesn't have the salt. How do you compare the salt? Salt is very different. Yeah, exactly. So you get the idea. Hashed password के अंदर ही salt है. The salt is present over here. The hashed password that you send has the salt over here. It will be able to extract the salt from it, and then it will be able to run the same algorithm on the plain text password and get the final hash. How proof of stake secure blockchain? How they get rewards? Do stackers have any association of smart contract deployment on blockchain? Okay. You should go back to week 1 and week 2 and week 3 of the Web3 cohort where we discuss this again and again. Okay, how does proof of stake? Oh, proof of stake, you're asking. My bad. I thought you said proof of work. Proof of stake works a little different. Proof of stake says that we are going to have miners. Each miner will put on some stake. What does it say? It says that अब machine नहीं matter करेगी कितनी बड़ी है तुम्हारी. Doesn't matter how big of a machine you have. You might have a very small machine. You might have a mobile device from which you are mining. But everyone needs to stake some ETH. Let's say this person has staked 10,000 ETH. Even though he's on a small machine, he has staked 10,000 ETH. This person has only staked 100 ETH. And then this person has staked, let's say, 200 ETH, so on and so forth. So everyone will have to put up a stake. And the size of your machine doesn't matter. Bitcoin mein, proof of work mein, what happens? If you have a bigger machine, then you'll be able to mine much faster, find the, hash with given number of zeros much faster. If you are able to do that faster, you will get the block reward. But here, they say, we are going to pick a validator randomly. We're going to pick a leader randomly. You are going to be the leader of this block. You are going to be the leader of this block. And the more the stake that you have put up, the more the probability that you will be the leader. So if this guy has 10,000 ETH, this guy has 100 ETH, this guy has 2,000 ETH, एक बार ही आया तो 20 बार ही आएगा. If this guy comes once, this guy will come 20 times, this guy will come 100 times. And if any of these nodes is dishonest, whenever you are a leader, you are supposed to propose a block. If you propose a block that is wrong, your Ethereum will get slashed. And that is why there is incentive for you to not lie. If you do lie, if you propose a block that does something malicious and everyone says you did something malicious, your Ethereum gets slashed. That is how proof of stake works. You're staking up some Ethereum to make sure if you do something bad, you will get slashed. Can you still do something bad? Yes. But when you get caught, you get penalized. What was your other question? So yesterday, sorry, where did that dog go? Other question I did not understand. Do stackers have any association in smart contract deployment on blockchain? I don't know what this means. I am new this side. I request, could you please write readme docs every assignment, how to approach the assignment. I just want a small hint on how to proceed on the assignment. Only if you give solutions, that would be nice. I don't want to use AI to solve the assignment. I want to write the code myself, but I just get blank whenever I go to the assignment. To coming out of tutorial hell would be nice. What I think is readme file attached to the, so you're saying a small hint file. Akash, remember this, and we'll let Prash know, and then all the assignments that are creating, let's add a hint in there. That's actually not a bad idea. I Google things, it's fine. Yeah, you will not arrive at what you are supposed to learn from the assignment by Googling. We should put hints in there, you're not wrong. Yeah, we'll have a structured readme and we'll have some hints in another file that you can, open. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Lead to the wrong audience. Here are the steps which solve this problem. Okay. Most of the people who are joining live Web3 classes on Friday are the complete beginner solution students in Web2 itself. So they are unable to catch up analogies, concepts, comparing Web2 concepts to Web3 in general. That is why most of the feedback is negative. Okay. You are teaching Web3 good to the wrong audience. So could you please take some actionable strategies to plan the entire code from now on? My suggestion. When Web3 concept, use analysis that don't rely heavily on Web2 world. Instead, relate to the real world examples. I think that's good. Design a course long project that starts with basic concepts and gradually incorporates more. That's not the worst idea in the world. Offer optional deep dive sessions. Host sessions for advanced students who want to explore topics in more depth. Yeah, that's also a good idea, but time commitment, sir. Separate Q&A section. Host Q&A sessions specifically for beginners. Yeah, that's also a good idea. More diagrams is true. Criteria. Create a comprehensive glossary of Web2 and Web3 terms. Yeah, this is a good idea. These are all good ideas which I'm going to just forget after the class. But Akash should remind me, and let me just print this out and put, because these are good. Very good suggestions. Thank you. I appreciate it. Divide the content into basic, intermediate, advanced levels. Allow beginners to focus on fundamental concept experience. Yeah, you're not wrong. The good thing is the difficult things of Solana are done. Now everything is writing contracts, which, thankfully there are like 20 different contracts that you have to write, or maybe 10 different contracts that you have to write, so you understand everything. Okay, how do you debit SOL from one account, send it to another account? How do you debit a token from one account, create to another account? How do you stake an NFT? So those can be learned by looking at the syntax. That said, yeah, let's maybe not follow a similar approach in Ethereum, and over there, follow this. I can try. These are all good suggestions, but again, we only have one class a week, right? And I have to scramble to create the offline class. So yeah, these are great suggestions. But the world isn't ideal. But I will try my best to make these are good suggestions. I'll try to incorporate them. Let's see. All right, this one was done. This one was done. Cool, guys. We will call it here. Thank you to Continuous Barber for Furi. Let me see how we can change this. Let me do a few polls. But the problem is, polls will always get most of the people there will be the beginner people. So, they'll just suggest keep doing what we're doing. I get where you're coming from. Maybe one thing we need is hackathon specific sessions, or, advanced sessions to create a project for just advanced people. Usme nahi samajh aa raha hai beginners ko, to, that's fine. So I should maybe once a month or once every 15 days do a session. Okay, this is only for advanced people. And if you get overwhelmed, don't worry, because this isn't part of the main code. I can do that. I think that's a good thing to do anyways. So cool. Let's do that. Thank you so much for the suggestion. And this looks decent. Whoever built this. But yeah, we'll call it here. I will see you guys next week. Hope you guys have a good night and stay safe, folks. Bye bye.